Huda said this is the last big palette ever. I had to buy it. I've got to know, is Icy Nude amazing? Is it a flop? Do we love it? Do we hate it? Let's jump into it. Hey y'all, it's Heather and I'm so excited. I bought the new Icy Nude palette from Huda Beauty. I also bought the 2 blushes that launched as a part of this collection, and I bought the lip gloss. I love this formula, so the fact that she came out with more glosses, no brainer. I had to buy one. We're gonna swatch it all. We're gonna do comparisons. We're gonna do a tutorial. We gotta talk about everything. But first, let me show you, because Huda said this is the last one.
This is our last big palette ever. I can't believe I'm saying that right now. We launched the brand with big palettes, but we're not doing them anymore. The palette is so amazing that you guys are gonna love it, and hopefully it becomes one that you guys can collect. It is limited edition.
I'm very curious to see what the brand is gonna do next. I'm always interested in Huda Beauty, whatever she releases. Let's talk first about these blush filters. I bought both of the new shades, and I actually swatched these in stores when she launched this formula, and I did not think I was gonna love them because I swatched them in store. I thought they were too dewy, too sticky, but having them on my face for like all day, and I put them on a little bit last night, like they are working beautifully. I'm really a fan. I also really love the colors that she launched. Having these brown shades in a lighter and a medium deeper shade I think is just so beautiful. I love that she did a lighter and a darker version. I love the way they look on my skin. I really into this, and during the Sephora sale I may even pick up more shades, like, because I'm into this formula. I think this is so super cute. Earlier this year, Huda Beauty launched the faux filler glosses, and I bought several and I fell in love. So with this collection, I did decide to buy the shade She's Fire, and I love, we have a little bit of sparkle to the lips. It's that formula that I'm really enjoying. It feels comfortable on the lips. It's glossy. Like, it's a little bit, it's for the gloss loving girls, but it's not too sticky. It doesn't feel bad. Like, it feels like an elevated gloss formula, and I'm loving this. I love the packaging. I love that we have this shade with a little bit of sparkle, and during the sale, I'm definitely gonna have to pick up more shades. Now on to the star of the show, the Icy Nude palette from Huda Beauty. Kind of like this simplistic packaging. I'm not a cool tone neutral lover. I like them, okay? I like them. Like, there's a time and a place. It's just not shades I normally gravitate towards, but this palette has some really pretty shimmer shades that really drew me to it. Now, looking at it, first impression, I just gotta say, we got a lot of light shades. To me, I think there's too many light shades in here. It's a little repetitive. We only have 3 deep shades, but Huda is saying she has trio chromes, and we've got like all kinds of things. You're gonna see. I'm gonna zoom you in and we'll get to swatching. My eyes are primed and ready for shadow. We're gonna start with this shade right here called Iced Out. This is described as a white duochrome metallic. That is definitely a pink to blue to white shade. I would say this is more of a trio chrome actually, because you do have that shift right there, pink to blue to white. So I see all 3 different colors. I am going to show you this on my hand. We're gonna swatch on my eye and we'll look at it in the pan. I'm just gonna apply Iced Out with my finger right here across my lid. You can definitely see that white. Like, when I'm looking straight into the camera, it is white, white, white. It's a beautiful, beautiful shade. I really like the shift in this. I have to say, we're starting off strong. I'm really into this first shade. It's giving me a lot of hope for the palette. There we have it on my eye, in the pan, and then swatched on my hand. Next, we will swatch this shade called High Life. This is described as a soft purple matte. Very, very softly purple, very neutral. If I was describing this, I would never say it was purple. I'll put High Life right here. Just gonna tap it on with my finger before I go in with the brush. Here's the shade now that I have it blended on with the brush, on my hand, on my eye, and also in the palette. It is pretty. It does look a little more purpley on the eyes. Super pretty. This is the winner so far though for favorite shades. Next we'll do the shade Platinum. This is described as a silver metallic. It looks very metallic. Let's put it right here kind of under that last matte shade. That's very pretty. Like, that looks really smooth, really beautiful. I'm into it. Okay, I'm into it. Let's try it on the eyes. We do have a nice large mirror in this Huda palette. I can appreciate that. I've got my eye primer on, and I'm just gonna tap this shadow on. Look how it catches the light. I'm gonna grab a brush. I do always link my brushes and list them down below. When I do the eye swatches, when I do the looks, everything like that. So I'm just gonna kind of like spread this a little bit, blend it out and about so that you can see that you can use your finger or a brush. That's why in these eye swatches, I really like to mix it up so that you can see. Isn't that pretty? And then again, here it is on my hand. So pretty. So you can see like over my skin tone, it's like so vibrant and poppy, but even over this light base it is. And then here's what it looks like in the pan. Next is the shade Unapologetic. This is described as a burgundy matte. So we'll put this one here. Okay, that one's pretty. It didn't just like blow me away first impression, but I feel like if I put it on the eyes and maybe kind of like pack it on a little bit more, the pigment will be there more. I'm gonna make sure I don't have any creases in my eyeshadow primer, and then I'm gonna pop it right there. Okay, let me grab a brush and fluff this on, but there's how it looks just right out of the pan. There's how it applies with a brush. I accidentally had a little sparkle on my finger from earlier, so if you see a little sparkle, just know this is a matte shadow. That's just me being messy. So there it is on my hand, there it is on my eye, and then let me show you right here. It is in the palette. That's pretty. It's that is going to be one of the deepest shades in the palette. It's not very deep, so keep that in mind if you are someone like me who likes really dark, deep shadows. Like, this is one of the deepest shades in the palette. Of course, you could use a darker base to help deepen it up. I have it on top of a light base so that it's showing like the most true to color that I can get it, because again, you're seeing it on my hand. But yeah, this is probably like one of only 3 deep shades in the palette, these right here. So if you like deep shadows, or maybe you have a deeper skin tone, this is how it's translating on me. Next, we'll swatch the shade Faux Fur. This is described as a chocolate brown matte. We'll put this maybe right here. Okay, that's pretty. That's deep. I'm glad to see another deep shade in the palette. Like I said, just from looking at it, I'm thinking there's maybe like 3, but that is applying very deep. So that makes me happy, because that means we can do some dramatic looks. It makes the palette a little more versatile. So we will grab our brush and we'll see how we can kind of pack and blend. It's applying really beautifully. It's blending well. I'm not having any issues with patchiness. Now, I will remind you that I am a person. I'm a 37-year-old person. I am living in a hot, humid place. I have oily skin. I am not a AI generated image. So if you see a little texture on my lid, that is because I'm a person and I have texture, and that just is what it is. I will definitely point out if I have any patchiness or anything like that. This right here is the structure of my face. I really can't do much about that outside of surgery, which I am very unwilling to do. So if you're seeing here, this is like just the structure of my face. Shadows will hit there, light will hit here. I have a little bit of texture on my lid, but this is a very smooth shadow. There's no patchiness. It's looking really nice, really dark, deep, pigmented. I'm happy with it. You can see it's much more impressive on the eyes than it is on my hand. And then it looks very like true to pan, from my eye to the pan, which I'm happy about. It's very, this whole palette, very cool toned. We'll swatch this shade right here. This is called Gold Standards. I'll put that right here. That looks really smooth, very pretty. It's got a nice, good sparkle to it. This is just described as a bronze metallic shade. Definitely a gold bronze, definitely light, but I think it's pretty. I'm just gonna kind of apply that with my finger. You can see it definitely shows up like on my skin tone. It has that more light quality to it on top of the base, and there it is in the pan. That's cute, very pretty. We don't really have just from looking in here, we have light and mid-tone shimmers. We don't really have any dark shimmers, which is kind of the theme. Not a ton of dark shades in this palette. Let's swatch the shade Avalanche right here. This is a matte white shade. We'll put it right over here. And that's white. It looks very smooth. It doesn't look overly pigmented. So we'll see. Let me put this on with my finger. I know we're gonna get the best result with the brush though, but I'm just going to pop it right there. I am switching out my eyeshadow primer. They're all linked in the description box. I know that y'all have asked me like to kind of switch up my primer when I do these eye swatches so that you can kind of see on different bases, but I'm just gonna use my brush to kind of press, which is what I do with light matte shades like this. I kind of press and then I'll blend. And that is Icy White. It's not the most pigmented white I have, but it is pigmented, it is pretty, it's applying well, it's blending. Okay. I like the name Avalanche. I think that was really cute and creative. I don't know, sometimes you just like read names of different things and you're like, the brand, they got it spot on with this one. I like a white shadow, especially if you want to like really do some brightness on the inner corner or really do some brightness right in here to kind of open up your eyes. Can be super pretty. I'm really looking forward to trying this shade. It's called Aurora. This is described as a deep pink metallic, and I really like shades like that. I think shades like this are so beautiful on literally every single person I have ever seen them on. So I'm excited to get this on. I'm gonna just pop it on with my finger and we'll kind of apply it like this. I'm gonna bring it up so that you can really see. And that's definitely a metallic shade. There it is on my hand compared to my eye. And then let me show you in the palette compared to my eye. I mean, that's a stunning metallic. Metallics deserve more hype. I feel like so often, like now we're so excited about duochromes and multichromes and holochromes, and like, I love those too, don't get me wrong, but I just love sparkle, and there's something so stunning just about a metallic shadow that is pigmented and reflective, and I am here for this shade. This intense looking shade is called VVS. Huda says this is a sparkly pink metallic trio chrome. The first shade we swatched, I saw the shift from the white to the pinky purple blue. This one I don't see quite as much. There is a shift to more of like a silver to pink to gold. I do think the first shade had a stronger shift. This one does look really, really pretty. So let's get that on our lid. Gonna just apply that with the finger. That's beautiful. This shadow has a really nice texture to it. It feels a little more textured in the pan, which don't be afraid of that. Like when I say, oh, this shadow has texture, don't think, oh, it's gonna make my lids look so textured. It's not gonna be, it's going to just be a different finish. Something kind of cool on the eyes, something that is going to be different if you put it next to one of the other shimmers. I personally love when palettes have multiple different formulas, multiple different textures. You know, give me mattes, give me shimmers, give me metallics, give me sparkly shades. Like, give me variety, because that's just gonna mean that I can create more variety of looks, even on a palette that has a cohesive color story. So I like this. I'm really kind of liking the texture of this shadow. I really like the sparkles. I'm gonna take that shadow up kind of high. So here it is on my hand. Right there, you can see. Really pretty and reflective. And then again, you can see in the palette that it has kind of an interesting texture. I was wondering if it was gonna feel the same as Aurora, but it doesn't. Let's do Poised, this shade right here. This is described as a pink gray matte. Let's see how it swatches. Yeah, I see that. Definitely. It's gray, and I see that little pink to it. Good job describing this one. I'll pop Poised on right there. Popped Poise on. We'll do that right there, and then I will grab my brush. That blends really, really beautifully. I think that's adhering really well to my lid. If you see a slight difference like right here, I'm just having a little tiny bit of texture. It's fine, it's fine. It's not the shadow, it's my lid. I could see it even when I was applying my shadow primer. But that's cute, yeah, blending. I'm not having trouble blending any of these shades so far. They're all performing very nicely. Here's the shade on my hand and my lid, and then right here, we have it in the palette. Let's swatch the shade She's Rich. We'll put that right here on my hand. This is the darkest shade in the palette, and we'll pop that right here on my eye. Very dark. I'll grab a brush and we'll see how it applies and blends. This shade is described as a deep brown matte. I agree. It's applying evenly, even over my texture. I feel like it looks really nice. I'm not having any issues with this shade at all. The last shade we have in this column is Cold Plunge. Let me again though show you this on my hand. Like, it didn't swatch the best, but it looks really nice on my lid. Cold Plunge is a neutral nude matte. Okay, didn't swatch the best, but we'll see how it goes on the eyes. This is a very light shade. I mean, that's pigmented. Here is Cold Plunge on my eyes. It's very light. It's not a stark white like Avalanche, but it is cream. I would say it's got just a little bit of peachiness to it. Applied way better on the eyes than it did swatched on my hand. And I mean, there's gonna be like several shades in here that are light like this. For me, I don't know how necessary having all of those light shades and different tones are in a palette that is this size, but it is a pretty shade. We've got another very light shade. This is IDGAF. This is described as a light pink matte and does not swatch the best. These light matte shades don't always swatch the best. Mattes just aren't as fun to swatch, but I'm gonna put it right there on my lid. I swapped out my eyeshadow primer again, and I'm gonna go in with a brush and I'm gonna pack first. You know, if you want, you can blend your shades like this. You're just gonna get the best pigment packing. Now, if you're using it as a blending color, great. But if you're wanting opaque coverage, pack. And what I mean when I say pack is I'm picking it up on my brush and I am packing it on just like this. I'm not being super careful, so if you see a little shadow fly up, it's just because like it's my palette. I'm not like barely tapping in. I'm not worried about a little shadow falling off my brush. I just want to do these eye swatches so that you can see the pigment, how things blend. I mean, this is a light shade, so of course, maybe I should do like a little second pass on my hand right here so that you can see, there you go, a little bit more how it is. I like to use light eyeshadow primers. I feel like they just help everything pop more, be true to pan. But so you can see, there it is like on my skin tone. Bling is described as a silver bio glitter, which check with Huda's site, but this is probably, I'm guessing, my guess, not probably, okay? I'm guessing this is one of the Eye Safe glitter formulas. So we'll put that right there. And, you know, I've had some glitter safe eye formulas that are eye safe glitter formulas that are a little more elevated feeling than this one. It looks very pretty in the swatch. It's not, I don't know, it doesn't feel complex. I feel like they should have done maybe several different shades of silver rather than this. Let's see how it goes on the eyes, because it's feeling very 2002 glitter formula for me. And I want to just see kind of how it goes on. Like, it looks okay. Like, it looks okay. If you are looking for a eye safe glitter formula, like one that's like okay with like cosmetic regulations, whatever, this is not the one I would pick. This is not the one I would pick. I believe Adept Cosmetics has a formula that has eye safe glitters. I believe Besame does, and they're very much more elevated than this. This, it's okay, but it's also like, if you have like a Christmas tree and you have a bin that you put your ornaments in, imagine with me that you're undecorating or like decorating your tree and you look at the bottom of the bin, you run your hand in all that glitter that falls off the ornaments, like it's that, but you only have silver ornaments. Like it's not very luxe, shall we say. It doesn't feel luxe to me. It does not feel like a palette of this price point would have this formula. It's a choice. I like it better than when she puts those terrible cream shades into her palettes. Those I absolutely hate. But this would be like just one step up from that for me. Like, nah, like it's a nah for me, Huda. We have a very light shade again. This is the shade Oneself. It is a light gray matte, and we'll see if we can put this maybe here. Okay, it's a light gray matte. Huda is loving the very light shades in this palette. We'll put that right there. Okay, here's how that shade looks blended. I mean, they're very light shades. Like, sure, there's differences in these, but I would have preferred to swap them out for maybe something else just to give a little more variety than having so many light shades. But, you know, that's just me. Let's move on to the shade Diamond Dew, the shade right here. This diamond. Oh, okay. That's another like textured chunky formula. So we will swatch that. That's pretty. Okay. Like, you see how reflective that is? And then look at that light gray matte next to my eye. Let's do Diamond Dew. Let me make sure I don't have any creases in my eye primer. Oh, I'm getting so much fallout with that shade. Wow. Fallout doesn't bother me too much. I usually just wipe it away. And maybe I just like went in too hard when I picked it up on my finger, because wow, that was like a ton. Okay, but that could have been user error. I'll reserve judgment until I've used that shade a few more times, but yeah. That's a lot. This is described as a sparkly silver metallic triochrome. Do I see a triochrome? I keep moving it in the light to see. I feel like that's maybe a bit of a stretch. I don't know. I can't call that like a triochrome. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Next up, we have the shade Lavish, another very light shade. This is described as a dusty pink matte, and I would agree. Okay, let's throw it on with my finger. I mean, that's more pigmented than I thought. Let me swatch it again on my hand. Yeah. Okay, it's got some nice pigment. So you can see there on my eye, you can see there on my hand. I'm happy that this shade is a little bit darker than I initially thought it was going to be. It's still very light, but it does, you know, come across like how it does in the pan. So let's do First Class, the shade next to it. First Class is a peachy matte. We'll put that shade right there. Nice little peachy color. Put that on my lid right there. Okay, it's cute. Like, there it is. It's cute. Here it is. These two shades next to how they look in the palette. Cute, just full of light shades. full of light shades, very light. But before we move into the comparisons, I do want to show you this palette all swatched out together so that you can really see like the tones, the colors stored together, all of that. I want to show you some palette comparisons. I'm not saying that these palettes are dupes for the Huda Beauty palette at all. I'm just saying that these palettes maybe give a similar vibe to Icy Nude. Maybe you saw this, but you're like, you know, I want something like that, but that's what I'm here to do with the comparisons for you. Let me just go ahead and give you a comparison of the 1111 palette from ColourPop, just in case you were wanting something at a drugstore price point. ColourPop makes really beautiful formulas, easy to blend, beautiful shimmers, and I think that this 1111 palette has kind of a similar vibe to the Huda. They're not the exact same formulas, but we do have some really beautiful mattes in the ColourPop palette. You don't have as many gray and silvers, of course. You do have different formulas, different textures in the shimmers. You have some beautiful pinky tones. You have some beautiful neutral tones. You could definitely get like a similar type of look at a much lower price point if you wanted this. Again, not formula dupes, not as many shades, not the same type of shades, but the same vibe. If you're looking at the Huda palette and you're thinking, I like that, but I'd like to have a color option. If you were looking at that first shade, the iced out shade, and you're thinking like, it has that beautiful blue shift, like I would like to have that option in a palette, let me recommend the Culturals palette from Cosmic Brushes. Cosmic Brushes is a UK based indie brand, meaning it is independently owned. This is also at a much lower price point, and you can see we have those like peachy pinks, we have kind of the mauve shades, the grays, but we also have a few blues scattered through here. It's definitely got some options. We've got blues and grays and kind of the whites and blacks down here at the bottom of the palette. We've got some more brown peachy neutrals up in the top half of the palette. You do have some special shades in here like multi-chromes and shades that are very foiled and very intense and duochromes. So again, these are not dupes. I'm not saying that they're the exact same, but I am saying if you wanted the Huda palette, but you wanted to have a little bit more of like a color option, you want to be able to create and do something maybe a little different, like Huda with a kick of color, this one is the one that I think you would really enjoy. I do personally prefer the Cosmic Brushes formula over the Huda formula, just throwing that out there as well. I really love Natasha Denona. She makes some of my favorite formulas of eyeshadows, and I thought about this palette, the I Need a Nude palette. Now this palette is not quite as cool. You're not having those grays and silvers like you do in Huda's palette, so they are different in that way, but you do have those pinky tones, you have the very neutral tones, you have a little bit more of like brown options in here. But what I do like more about the Natasha palette is that you have like a variety of shimmers. You have very light shimmers and you have very deep shimmers. You don't have as much variety in the mattes between both of the palettes, right? Like this is a smaller palette and you only have one deep shade, whereas you have 3 deep shades in here. But if you're looking at the size of the palette, the ratio, I do like that we have the deeper shimmers in this palette over here with the I Need a Nude. And I do love Natasha Denona's formulas. I think this was really like a standout palette from her. But of course you do have the silvers and grays over here with Huda. Now, of course, I've thought about Natasha Denona's Glam palette. It is much more on the neutral side. You don't have like the pinks or really like those true bright silvers. Again, I do prefer Natasha's formula. There are much more like many more shimmer shades over here in Natasha, but you do still have beautiful mattes, light to deep mattes over here. You have browns, you have some more of those really like neutral to cool tone shades. You have a variety of shimmer shades and really beautiful. So I wanted to show you those like just kind of side by side so that you can get an idea for them. I also want to give you one more indie brand option. Maybe you're looking at the Huda and you're thinking like, it's just not giving the punch I need. Maybe you think like me, like there are too many light shades. Let me show you the Dollhouse from Blend Bunny, because this palette is truly fantastic. And Blend Bunny, like they're giving you more and more, because more is more, right? Like they're giving it to us. Now this palette is going to have color, but I specifically wanted to point out this pinky mauve row right here, this kind of like more neutral cool tone brown, this more gray row, and then we even have the purples. Again, this is giving you much more color than the Huda Beauty Icy Nude palette. All right, y'all, jumping into the tutorial. Of course, my eyes are primed. I will have that in the brushes and everything linked down below for you. I think that these shadows applied really beautifully. It is what I expect from Huda. Of course, the mattes, like they went on well, they blended well. I didn't have any issues with anything. I did decide to use the 3 darkest mattes mattes because I love dark, dramatic looks. And for my skin tone, a lot of these shades are very, very light. So I wanted to use the dark shades. I did use some light shades as blending and buffing shades. And of course, I wanted to use the really special shimmery, metallic-y, sparkly shades in this palette. I think that my look came together really beautifully. I think with this palette, a lot of the tones are so similar that it's gonna be pretty easy to create cohesive looks. You know, like the shades do all work together. It is a pretty like on theme color story. You know, there's not a ton of variety, but with the light shades, the dark shades, with the different textures and the shimmers, you will be able to get some really beautiful cool toned looks with this palette. I will say this is not like my favorite palette ever, even outside of the fact that, of course, I'm not a person that just absolutely prefers cool tones and will pick cool tone neutrals all the time. I will normally gravitate towards olivey undertones, golden undertones, warm undertones more than these types of shades. The formulas in this palette, if I'm going for this type of look, these colors, I would reach for some of the other palettes that we talked about in the comparisons. Although I do think this is a beautiful palette. I think it performs well. It's just not like a personal favorite for me. It's really good, really pretty. I just have others that I prefer more, but I would love to hear from you. What do you think of this palette? I like these blushes. I think they look really cool. I really like the gloss. I think I'm gonna pick up other shades once we get to the Sephora sale because I'm feeling the gloss and maybe even more blush shades. Let me know, did you pick any of this up? Are there any holiday releases that you want me to pick up? Because like I said, the sale is here. It is almost time and I'm building my wish list. So I would love to hear from you. Check out some of my other videos if you love new makeup because I love new makeup.